So I'm from Upfront Analytics, and I'll just give you a quick overview about us. So we're a market research company, and we get our insights through mobile games. In specifically one game, The Prize Manor, which we've got on Google Android at the moment, available to download for free. We've had 2,500 reviews or so, 4 out of 5 rating, about 4.5 million games played at the moment, and we have 9,500 registered players. And we've got nationally representative samples in both the US and UK. We're slightly different to gamification in that we don't just, it's not just a thin veneer over a questionnaire or a research panel. Between 70% and 90% of our game is just for fun. So people come play the games because they like to play the games. That's how we get people back and we incentivize them to play. We give out real prizes to people, and also we've about 25% of our players come back and play for an average 10 minutes every month, or for a month. And about a quarter of those, again, are still playing after 3 months, but playing more than what they played initially. So at the moment, we've got a few mini games. I'm not going to go into all these in detail because you can download a game for free and play away. But each one of the mini games is designed to glean different types of information from our players. So we've got prediction games, we've got wordplay games, guessing games, picture association games, and then just survey style questions. Real prizes are given out, prizes are given for getting on the leaderboard, but also you can get, thank you very much, this better? Better? Okay. But also you can get inline currency, which you can play, get currency in the game, and then trade that up for real prizes, which are sent to your home. So this is what incentivizes people to come back and play with us. We're using that information plus other information because we're using mobile applications. We have got a course location information coming from the game. So once we only request it once when a person logs in, we get their location, and then we're merging that with census information, but also additional things that we're doing, such as we've got chat rooms in the game where we're doing natural language processing for sentiment analysis on topics that we've put forward. We're looking at the device people are connecting with, what the price points of those are, and so forth. So we've got a whole lot of different information streams coming together. But what I'm really here to talk to you about today is how we're using all this information and how specifically we're using an application for retail. So how we're using it for doing analysis on store marketing. So who are the people going to your store? Who are the people going to your competitor's store, and why? And if you're putting in a new store, where do you place it? Let's face it, that's what people are coming to us for, is to get market research and all this information. So for this specific application, we also use additional information. So we are using store locations, not just of your store, but your competitor's stores. And we're analyzing this information using data mining tools, and then we've got an in-house visualization tool to validate all our information and to figure out who we should be asking questions for. So I'm going to give a case study that we did recently enough for 2 big box chains in the US, basically for home improvements. So one had 1,700 stores and another one had 1,900 stores. And we were comparing that to figure out why are customers going to A or B, and if you were going to open a new store, where would it be and why? So I'm going to go through all these pieces of information in detail, what we've done. So the first thing we did was in one of our mini apps, or 2 of our mini apps actually, we just pushed a question. So which do you prefer, to go to A or B, store A or B? We then apply additional contextually relevant game content. So that game content might be, for example, home improvements. Are you a homeowner? Do you watch home improvement shows on TV? What are your attitudes towards, store A, store B, price points, and a load of other different types of information. And because our players are coming back again and again, we can ask them secondary or tertiary questions after we've done initial analysis. Okay, so this is just additional information we got on our players, such as age, gender, ethnicity, connection device, and also the type of things they like to buy with their currency and game currency. The location we get is from Android course localization functionality. So every time a person logs in, we're figuring out, okay, where are they in the country? And obviously, you can't just do this one time because people log in multiple times. Sometimes they might log in at work, sometimes they might log in at home, sometimes they'll be transitioning from one place to another. So we have a machine learning algorithm that figures out, okay, here's the best position for this player based on spatiotemporal information. And the average accuracy we're getting for players just from the Android course localization is 1.4 kilometers, which is quite narrow. This is just a visualization of our players that answer questions. You can zoom in on them and figure out different types of information of them. And these are our stores. So this is our client stores, and this is our competitors. So the competitors, you can go to their website, reverse geolocate where their stores are going to be. And then you can place these on a map and zoom in on them and so forth. Where this becomes really interesting is when you pool both these pieces of information together. So just using the location information of your players, but also the stores, you're making sure you're asking the right people the right questions. So you don't want to be asking, do you go to store A or store B, when you've no option to go to store B because it's 100 kilometers away is your closest one. So we're able to segment our player pool and to be able to target specifically people who have an option of going to store A or store B, whether store A or B is 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, whatever you want to do away. But make sure it's a manageable distance. So this is just showing, this basically as bird flies. This is how we decide, how people, if they are worth asking a question to, specific question to. And because we're getting localization information to an accuracy of, as I said, about on average 1.4 kilometers, all of a sudden a whole ream of additional information becomes available to you. Specifically US Census information from the American Consumer Survey, which, what we've just shown here is the census tract of where the player is, and then these are the two stores that they could go to. These are the different census tracts of the two stores. Why this is important is that the US American Consumer Survey has over 220,000 of these blocks. Each one of them has got an average population of about 1,400 people. You're getting a very fine-grained prior of of a whole ream of information. So age, gender, health, ethnicity, household status, everything. So all this is coming through. The US Census, the American Consumer Survey, is updated every year. They have got a budget for next year of $250 million just to get and update their information. So it's there. If you can get it from mobile data, you should be using it, because if you're not, you're just throwing away a huge amount of data that you can get for free. It's just available for free. You just download it, and you can access it and start playing around with it. So in our case study here, whereby we were asking people to prefer to go to store A or their competitor to store B, on average, 58% were going to store A, but this varies based on which one was the closest. So when I say it's closest, it's, they're not going more than 10% out of their way to go to a further away store. So it could vary from 34% to 80%. So if store A is closest, 80% of people were just going, I'm not going more than 10% out of my way to go to the nearest home improvement store. So if you're doing data analysis on that, you basically, 48% of people are just going to go to the closest store. Now, they may have a preference, but possibly you want to remove these people from your analysis for further analysis, figure out, to make sure that you are getting people that either are going to a further store or an equidistant store. So it's a store that they're choosing to go to rather than one that is just the closest and most convenient. So people are going, the extra mile was 52%. Okay, so we could then drill down into this data again using census information of just the 52 to figure out, okay, why are those people going from one store to another? It was quite interesting that for one store, more people were going to it because it was in a more affluent area than where they lived. So they were actually going to a place that they felt like they were trading up and shopping in a better area. And people who were going to store B were doing the opposite. They were going to a lower income area where possibly they believed the prices would be lower. In fact, they weren't. But this is what we found. And we also found that when you split the area up by the income of the area people were going to, the higher income medium area people were traveling to more affluent areas more and less affluent areas less. So basically what it's saying is like the lower income you were more likely to go to a store in a less affluent area than you currently were. All this information was being able to get by just asking one question in our app, which was, which store do you go to, A or B? Then everything else is just using census information and location information. The advantage as well is that, at this point in time, you can then requery. So, okay, we found out something that we think is interesting. Ask the question again, because the panel are going to be back the next day to ask the same question, to ask different questions. We also looked at the comparison of stores A and store B, again, solely using census information. It was shown that store A was targeting areas of higher population and housing density, which really is key if 48% of people are going to the closest store. Whereas one of them should be store B, both of them say store A. Whereas the second one was actually focusing more on home ownership, so getting a higher percentage of home ownership, which, in fact, it was important, but not nearly as important as housing density. And then there was, so store A was also appealing to a wider audience by not only going to locations that were much less affluent, but also much more. So they were widening their base compared to the second one, which is much more narrow, sort of focusing on the middle classes. And then I'm just going to finish with a plug for us. We're Upfront Analytics. If you visit our website, there is a free sample. So the cost is good. You just go there, click in. You can compare 3 brands of whatever your choice on a number of different topics. We'll run it for you. We'll give it back to you for free. That price is negotiable if you want. So any questions, please feel free to ask.